Hello everyone, this is Scott Caruso from Java 2 1308 here with my week 2 reflection video. Let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about how this week went before we get into the application and the code itself. And I really want to take a minute just to talk about how well I thought this week went, which is it's kind of amazing to me. I don't know if I really ever talked about my full story. The first 3 weeks of Java 1, between work and home commitments, were an absolute disaster for me. And by the end of week 3, I had an application that was a complete and utter mess. So I spent that entire last week of Java 1 rewriting my entire application from scratch to have what you see today. And something during that week clicked, and all of a sudden all of this is starting to make a lot more sense to me in the same way that Objective-C made sense to me. And I really feel like I've hit my stride in these 2 weeks. Let's talk a little bit about content providers. I didn't have any problem working with them at all, and I think in theory the idea is great. I think anytime that you can share data, when you have open data amongst applications, among application developers, that's always a good thing, right? The more data that's available, the better for everybody. You never know who might find interesting uses for the data. I think the thing that is lost on me, and that I could get more clarification on, is more practical applications. Maybe that's what I could have done better and differently this week, is actually done some time studying what those practical applications are. From a purely functional standpoint for my application, I mean, it works great, and it's a nice alternative to having to query the system memory to try to retrieve data that the user might have saved. I know that it's far more robust than that, but it's a nice usage. And really, I think that's one of the advantages that it has, is that you as a developer can control the access to what you want in a way that's similar to the way you can control access to the local storage, but you can do it in a way that provides a common language and a common set of schema that anybody can access. But you're controlling that data for everyone, which is obviously there's some benefits there, especially if you're starting to build an application that might use some kind of proprietary data that you want to make sure remains your own, even if other people are using it. A disadvantage clearly is that it doesn't seem particularly scalable. Not like a cloud database, for instance. You might be saving something RESTfully or in a NoSQL kind of table. It doesn't seem like it would scale nearly as well, but I haven't really tried scaling it either. But it's just my sense is that that's a disadvantage that you would get from them. All right, now that we've talked about the week and I've effectively bored you for the past 3 minutes, let's look at the application itself real quick. It's going to look very similar to what you're used to from last week. A few minor changes you see here. There is a button to allow you to query by party. So you have Republicans and Democrats as an option. Click the button, it'll actually show you any Democrats that you have saved. I've got 4 of them, some from Connecticut, 1 from Florida, 1 from Massachusetts. You can also do it for Republicans, and you can still retrieve all your saved politicians as well. The other thing it does is it remembers your orientation. So it actually aligns to the orientation, or remembers the state that you're in when you align the orientation. So if you're viewing results prior to this week, it would have kicked you back to this screen that you see here, the main menu. However, in this week now, it actually remembers that you're on the display data page and continues to display the data that you were looking at. So clearly an improvement there. You can't really tell from looking at the application, but the back button is also an improvement. Up until this week, the back button had been programmatically rebuilding the main interface. Now it actually just reloads and it reloads the main interface with 1 line of code, rather than me having to rewrite dozens of lines of code every time I made a change to the main activity. So now let's take a look at the code real quick. So looking here in the main activity, I am getting some data when you change the orientation, or when the instance of the bundle changes. In this case, I'm actually using a pair of booleans to determine what we're going to do. One that tells you that the politician results are being displayed, and one that tells you if the state is changing because you've hit the back button or because you've changed the orientation. If you hit the back button, it also returns a boolean from that display, and then it uses this data down here to tell you to either just rebuild the display, or to display the main menu fully as you would normally expect it to do. Obviously, I've updated the code to utilize a cursor and a content manager. As you can see the cursor here, it actually goes, it returns a cursor from the saved politician provider here, which if you look at it is a standard service provider. It returns a lot more information than what I've already displayed, or more than just the politicians. But you see here it's a standard service provider class that I have simply modified to match my data. And all of the saved data applications that you see within my, or saved data functions you see within my application are all now pulling from the content provider rather than from the local storage. That was week 2. Hope everyone else had a great week, and I will talk to you again prior to week 3.